heart of West Africa lies a nation of over 200 million people, a country whose vibrant cultures, languages, and history span centuries. This is Nigeria. Today, it stands as Africa's most populous nation and a major economic hub. But beneath the surface of modernity and progress lies a story of struggle, resilience, and a relentless pursuit of freedom. A journey that culminated on October 1st, 1960, when Nigeria was declared an independent nation. This is the story of Nigeria's fight for independence. Long before the British arrived, the land we now call Nigeria was home to complex and advanced civilizations. From the Look people, whose artistic expressions in terracotta remain legendary, to powerful empires like the Benin Kingdom, the Oyo Empire, and the Kanem-Borno Empire. These societies flourished in trade governance and culture. Pre-colonial Nigeria was a tapestry of different ethnic groups and kingdoms, each with its own system of governance, economy, and traditions. The Yoruba in the southwest, the Igbo in the southeast, and the Hausa Fulani in the north, among others, had thriving political and cultural systems long before European influence. In the late 19th century, European powers, spurred by the economic and political motivations of the Berlin Conference, scrambled for control of Africa. For the British, Nigeria's wealth in resources, including palm oil, timber, and later oil, made it a prime target. By 1914, the British had consolidated their control, merging the northern and southern protectorates to form the colony of Nigeria under British rule. The British colonial administration imposed a system that disregarded the existing political and social structures. They governed through indirect rule, utilizing local leaders, but it was a system designed to exploit Nigeria's resources for Britain's benefits. For decades, Nigeria's wealth was extracted by the colonial administration, while its people were subjected to foreign domination, but the seeds of resistance were being sown. By the early 20th century, a new class of educated Nigerians emerged, many of whom had studied abroad. They were inspired by the global wave of anti-colonial movements and began to advocate for self-governance. Herbert Macaulay, often called the father of Nigerian nationalism, was among the first to challenge British colonial rule. Through his newspaper, the Lagos Daily News, and his leadership of the Nigerian National Democratic Party, he became a vocal critic of the injustices of colonialism. By the 1930s and 40s, the nationalist movement gained momentum with figures like Nnamdi Azikiwe, who founded the West African Pilot newspaper and later became one of the key leaders in the fight for independence.
If I am asked whether I am happy because Nigeria is free and the Nigerian government appears to be stable and the people of Nigeria are apparently satisfied that the price of freedom and the price our leaders paid for it were worth the sacrifice, I would answer in the affirmative. It is true that other compatriots and I had to scale the craggy heights as we trekked the stony Golgotha of human life. It is true that during this struggle, this climax was reached after a greater part of a quarter of a century. Our lot was one of vicissitude and disappointment. Nevertheless, I am grateful to God that I did not swerve from our objective in spite of mutilation of facts, amorphous interpretation, and deliberate perversion of my actual role. All that remains to be done now is for our leaders and their followers to demonstrate that spiritual resilience which will enable us to survive the onslaught of the past. With faith in the eventual success of our adventure in the trinity of nations, We can look forward to tomorrow with hope and charity for our fellow man, knowing that the task has been well done and that prospects of the future are bright. In the words of the distinguished American poet Langston Hughes, let us hopefully march together to a greater tomorrow for Nigeria in unity with spirit.
The early nationalist movements were driven by the educated elite, but they spoke to the broader aspirations of Nigerians who had grown tired of colonial exploitation. The press, student movements, and trade unions all played significant roles in fostering a sense of national identity. World War II was a turning point for Nigeria and other colonized nations. Thousands of Nigerians fought in the British Army, gaining exposure to global ideas of freedom and self-determination. Upon returning home, many soldiers and civilians alike began to demand the same freedoms for Nigeria. The economic strain of the war led to increased labor arrests in Nigeria, with major strikes by railway workers, coal miners, and civil servants. These actions heightened the pressure on the British administration and strengthened the resolve of the nationalist movements. By the 1950s, the push for the Nigerian independence was unstoppable. The nationalist movement had grown beyond the educated elite, incorporating grassroots support from trade unions, students, and traditional leaders. Political parties emerged, each representing the diverse ethnic groups of Nigeria. Figures like Obafemi Awolowo of the Action Group and Ahmadu Bello of the Northern People's Congress and Nnamdi Azikiwe of the NCNC became central to negotiations with the British. The British, weakened by the war and facing pressure both at home and internationally, began to make concessions. Constitutional reforms in the 1950s granted Nigeria increased self-governance, and by 1959, the first election for a fully Nigerian government were held. The elections of 1959 set the stage for the birth of a new nation. On October 1st, 1960, Nigeria became a fully independent state with Abubakar Tafawa Balewa as its first prime minister. The morning of October 1st, 1960 was a moment of pride and joy for millions of Nigerians. At a grand ceremony in Lagos, the British Union Jack was lowered and the Nigerian green flag was hoisted in its place. Today is a great day for Nigeria, and I am proud to stand before you as the first Prime Minister of a free and independent Nigeria. We are entering a new era full of hope and promise, Tafawa Balewa said on the 1st of October. The celebration spread across the country, from the streets of Lagos to the villages of the north. Nigeria had finally gained the freedom it had yearned for, and the future seemed bright. While independence was a monumental achievement, Nigeria soon faced the daunting challenges of nation building. The country's diverse ethnic and religious makeup, combined with the legacy of colonialism, led to tension and political instability. In the years following independence, Nigeria grappled regional divisions, culminating in a bloody civil war from 1967 to 1970. But even in the face of these struggles, Nigeria emerged stronger, rebuilding and continuing its journey as a sovereign nation. Today, Nigeria stands as a testament to the resilience and strength of its people. Though it has faced challenges, economic, political, and social, Nigeria remains a land of immense potential and promise. Independence gave us the power to shape our destiny, but it is up to us to continue the work of building a just and prosperous Nigeria for all. Happy Independence, Nigeria! From all of us at Atlantic Television